Welcome in, guys. Thank you very much for joining me today. Hope all is well and hope you had a happy NFL Week 14 weekend. So, we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. A lot of good games happened. A lot of players had good games. So, a lot of things stood out this week. Some specific games we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen getting a big win over the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow. We're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers getting a win over division rival Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. And we're also going to talk about the matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, and Houston Texans, CJ Stroud. So, a lot of good stuff to talk about. Before we do jump into that, I would like to mention that on my YouTube channel, I create content about money, sports, and personal topics with the goal of bringing value to other people's lives. So, if you guys find value in this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can continue making these videos. All right, let's go ahead and jump into NFL Week 14. All right, guys. So things kicked off on Thursday night with Thursday Night Football. We had a pretty good matchup. It was the Dallas Cowboys versus the Detroit Lions. So Dak Prescott of the Cowboys versus Jared Goff of the Lions. And both teams had a lot to play for in this game. Both teams are kind of on the edge of making the playoffs and or missing the playoffs. So very important game for both teams. The Lions, they get the win in this one. They score big with 44 points. It's at 30 points for Dallas Cowboys. The Lions improved to 8-5, and the Cowboys fall to 6-1. So let's check out the game leaders in this one. For the Cowboys, Dak Prescott, he went 31 for 47, 376 yards, one touchdown, two interceptions. So a pretty good game by Dak Prescott, almost 400 yards. Their wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb, had a pretty good game, six receptions, 121 yards. Let's check out the Lions. All right, on the Lions side, Jared Goff, 25 for 34, 309 yards, one touchdown. David Montgomery had 60 yards rushing with a touchdown. So, a very good offensive game by the Lions, and they get a win in this one. So, again, both of these teams, this game was definitely very important. Both teams are behind in their divisions. The Cowboys are behind the Eagles, and the Lions are behind the Packers and the Bears. So this was a big game for both teams to try to move up in their divisions and make the playoffs. So the Lions are 8-5, but they're still behind the Bears and the Packers. And the Cowboys are 6-1, and they're still behind the Eagles. So we'll see what happens with both of these teams. Cowboys are playing really good offensively. Their defense has improved since making some personnel changes. And the Lions, they have one of the most exciting offenses in the NFL, and they continue to play well. So it'll be very interesting to see if these two teams make the playoffs. Um, if I had to put my money on it, I don't think the Cowboys will make the playoffs, but I think the Lions should make the playoffs along with the Bears and the Packers in their division. So we'll see what happens this last month of the regular season if these two teams do make the playoffs. So one of the most exciting games this weekend was definitely the matchup between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills. So this was two of the best quarterbacks in the NFL going head to head. Joe Burrow of the Bengals versus Josh Allen of the Bills. And both of these teams also had a lot to play for. The Bengals, they needed to basically win out the rest of their games to have a chance to make the playoffs. And the Bills, they're still trying to have the best record in the AFC to try to get home court or home field advantage in the playoffs. So a lot on the line in this game as well, but the Bills and Josh Allen, they pull out the win 39-34. They come back in the fourth quarter and the Bills improve to 9-4 and the Bengals fall to 4-9. Let's check out the game leaders in this one. So for the Bengals, Joe Burrow, he went 25 for 36, 284 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Wide receiver T. Higgins had 92 yards receiving with 2 touchdowns. And for the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, he went 22 for 28, 251 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. James Cook, 80 yards rushing, and tight end Dalton Knox had 93 yards receiving. So this was definitely one of the most exciting games this weekend. I was rooting for the Bills because I want the Pittsburgh Steelers to win the AFC North Division, which the Bengals are in. So I just wanted to make sure that the Bengals don't have a chance of making the playoffs. So I was definitely happy with the result. But early in this one, the Bengals were playing really well. They had the lead through the first half. Joe Burrow, he was playing very well. But in the second half, the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, he put on his Superman cape and came storming back. Also, Joe Burrow had 2 interceptions, and it was an awesome game to watch just because of the atmosphere and the weather. It was snowing and cold temperatures, so love to watch those games. And this was in Buffalo, so very, very typical game in Buffalo in December. So I'm definitely happy with the result. Josh Allen, again, put his Superman cape on. I think he and Matthew Stafford of the Rams are the two front runners for MVP in my eyes. So very, very good performance by Josh Allen. And on the other side, Joe Burrow and the Bengals are eliminated from playoff contention. So another disappointing year for the Bengals. Um, they couldn't stay afloat while Joe Burrow was injured this year. And with him coming back these last couple weeks, it's just a little too late. And the Bengals are not going to be in the playoffs this year. So another exciting game from the weekend was definitely the game between the Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So this was a matchup between Daniel Jones of the Colts, Trevor Lawrence of the Jags. Both of these teams are in the same division, very similar records, and they're fighting to win the division and make the playoffs. So in this one, Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, they get a big win, 36-19. They improved to 9-4 on the season, and the Colts, they dropped to 8-5, and they also got some devastating news that their quarterback Daniel Jones has a torn Achilles and is out for the rest of the season. So a very bad day for the Colts overall, and we'll see if they can recover for the rest of the season. But let's go ahead and check out the game leaders in this one. So for the Indianapolis Colts, um, Daniel Jones, he went 5 for 7 for 60 yards, and then his backup came in. Jonathan Taylor, their running back, had 74 yards rushing with a touchdown, and wide receiver Pierce had 80 yards receiving. So next, let's jump over to the Jags and see how they did. All right, so Trevor Lawrence, he went 17 for 30, 244 yards with 2 touchdowns. Their running back, Travis Etienne, had 74 yards rushing with 2 touchdowns, and Brian Thomas had 87 yards receiving. So, very good day by Trevor Lawrence. Looks like he didn't have any turnovers in this game, so that's good to see. So, I'm definitely a Jags fan, and I like Trevor Lawrence, so I'm very happy with this win. Um, the Jags have a really good chance now of winning the division, and they still also have to watch out for the Houston Texans, who are playing a lot better. But I think the Jags have a really good chance, again, of winning the division. They're playing well, and I think they will be in the playoffs. On the other side, the Colts, after having a really amazing start to the season, everybody was positively surprised with how good Daniel Jones is playing and just their overall team. They look like one of the best teams in the NFL. But these last few weeks, they've lost several games, and now they lost Daniel Jones for the rest of the season with a torn Achilles. So the season has just changed 180 for the Colts. The first half of the season was amazing, but the second half of the season has been, bad and now devastating. So I don't think the Colts are going to make the playoffs, unfortunately. They don't have any quarterback solutions really at the backup position. So just a very unfortunate change of circumstances for the Colts. And we'll see if they bounce back. So the game that I was most excited about watching this weekend was definitely the game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. So this was a divisional rival game between Aaron Rodgers of the Steelers and Lamar Jackson of the Ravens. Both of these teams were 6-6 heading into this game. So whoever won this game would get a 1 game lead in the division, and their chances of winning the division and making the playoffs would go up significantly. So the Steelers, they were able to pull out the win 27-22. Very happy about that. The Steelers are 7-6 on the season, first in the AFC North Division. The Ravens fall to 6-7. They're in the second place, So, very, very huge game for the Steelers. Their chances of making the playoffs have gone up significantly, and they just have to close out the regular season in a good fashion, and they'll be in the playoffs. So let's check out the game leaders in this one. For the Steelers, Aaron Rodgers had a good game, 23 for 34, 284 yards, one touchdown passing. He also had one rushing touchdown, and that was his first rushing touchdown in several years. So it was good to see him move around. Kenneth Gainwell, their running back, had a touchdown, and DK Metcalf had a big game with 7 receptions for 148 yards. So the Steelers offense had a pretty good game in this one. So let's check out the Ravens next. Lamar Jackson, 19 for 35, 219 yards, one touchdown, one interception. Derrick Henry, 94 yards rushing, and Zay Flowers had 124 yards receiving. All right. So I was definitely glued to this game. Like I said, huge game in the AFC North Division. In my mind, whoever won this game is going to win the division and make the playoffs. So, very, very big game. I thought the Ravens were going to win this game just because they have Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, and historically they're known to have a good defense, even though they're not that good this year. And I just thought the Steelers would play bad, especially with the type of game that they played last week, which was horrible. So the fact that the Steelers bounced back in this game in this week and got a win in this game over a very good team, it was very impressive. Aaron Rodgers had a lot of deep balls to DK Metcalf. He had a rushing touchdown, so he was definitely playing good. The Steelers' defense showed up in this one, made stops when they needed to. So big, big, big win for the Steelers. Best win of the season so far. And the Steelers just got to go. They have 4 more games to go. I think if the Steelers just go 2-2, the rest of the regular season 9-8 record, that should get them in the playoffs. The Ravens, they have a little bit of a harder schedule for the rest of the regular season than the Steelers do. So I think the Ravens might be 8-9 after it's all said and done. So that's what I'm hoping happens. We'll see what happens though, and let's go Steelers. Another big matchup this weekend was the game between the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers. So this was a NFC North division rival game. We had Caleb Williams of the Bears go against Jordan Love of the Packers. So two very exciting young quarterbacks going head to head, trying to win the division. And in this one, the Packers and Jordan Love get the win 28-21. They improved to 9-3-1 on the season, and the Bears fall to 9-4. So let's check out the game leaders in this one. For the Bears, Caleb Williams, he went 19 for 35, 186 yards, 2 touchdowns, one interception. So a pretty good game by Caleb. And their running back, DeAndre Swift, had 63 yards rushing. All right, let's go check out the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love, he went 17 for 25, 234 yards, 3 touchdowns, one interception. So, really good game by Jordan Love in this one. Josh Jacobs, 86 yards rushing with a touchdown. Wide receiver Christian Watson, 89 yards receiving with 2 touchdowns. All right, so a very good game in this one. Love to watch the NFC North teams play each other in the month of December when it's cold. So this was the Bears versus the Packers in Green Bay in December. The only thing that was missing in this one was snow, but nonetheless, it was a really good game. Caleb Williams and the Bears, even though they lost in this one, they continue to play good and improve each week. Um, they're headed towards the playoffs. Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love, one of the best teams in the NFL. They have one of the best defenses as well with Micah Parsons. So, two very good teams in the same division that should be headed towards the playoffs. And we'll see if either of these teams makes some serious noise in the playoffs. And we'll see who's better, Caleb Williams or Jordan Love. Right now, I think they're on the same level. Um, not sure which one of those two I would pick if I had to pick one, but both of these teams have found their long term solutions at the quarterback position. Talk about the Sunday night football game between the Houston Texans and the Kansas City Chiefs. So, this was a matchup of CJ Stroud of the Texans versus Patrick Mahomes of the Chiefs. So, two very, very good quarterbacks going head to head. This game also had a lot on the line. The Texans are trying to win their division, trying to catch up to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And on the other side, the Chiefs, they basically had to go undefeated the rest of the season to have a realistic chance of making the playoffs. So a lot on the line for both teams. But in this one, the Texans defense shows up. They get a big win, 20-10 over the Chiefs. The Texans are catching up to the Jags in their division, and the Chiefs most likely have been eliminated from the playoffs, which is probably one of the biggest surprises this season. So let's check out the game leaders in this one. For the Texans, CJ Stroud, he went 15 for 31, 203 yards, 1 touchdown. Their wide receiver, Nico Collins, had 121 yards receiving. So that's really good. Let's jump over to the Chiefs. For the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, 14 for 33. That's only a 42% completion percentage, 160 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So this was one of the worst games of Patrick Mahomes' career and one of the most important regular season games that he's played in. Mahomes also had 59 yards rushing, and Xavier Worthy had 55 yards receiving. So a bad offensive showing by the Chiefs in this one. And as a result, they're most likely out of the playoffs. All right, let's talk a little bit more about these teams. So the Houston Texans, they were struggling earlier in the season. Things were looking very bad. Um, they were 3-5. CJ Stroud got hurt, and it just looked like their season was over and that they weren't going to make the playoffs. But here we are 5 weeks later. They get 5 wins in a row. They're 8-5. CJ Stroud has been back for a couple weeks. He's playing better. They have a record of 8-5. closing in on the Jacksonville Jaguars in their division. So, very big turnaround for the Texans. So, they're kind of going in the opposite direction of the Indianapolis Colts, who are also in their division. The Colts were very impressive the first half of the season, but now the second half of their season, they're basically over. Um, they lost a lot of games, and their quarterback is out for the rest of the season. But the Texans, on the other hand, the first half of the season was a bit rough, but now the second half of the season, they've gotten 5 wins in a row. They have a healthy CJ Stroud, so two teams going in very different directions. And the Texans also have one of the best defenses in the NFL, as they showed in this game. All right, what to say about the Kansas City Chiefs? So, very awkward regular season this year, very up and down. Mahomes also disappointing as well. But with all that said, they were heading into this game with a record of 6-6. If they win out the last 5 games, they have a good chance of making the playoffs. So even with the rough first half of the season, they still have a lot of hope left. But in this game, they played very poorly. Patrick Mahomes, 3 interceptions. Their running game is non existent. Mahomes was the top rusher, so Kareem Hunt was not effective at all. Um, the wide receivers and Travis Kelsey, they had multiple drops in this one. So it was just a very bad outing and performance by the Chiefs. And as a result, it looks like they're out of the playoffs. If they win the last 4 games, they would have a record of 10-7, and they would have to have a lot of other things happen and go their way with the other teams for them to sneak into the playoffs. So looks like the Chiefs are not going to be in the playoffs this season, which would be a shocker. They've been in the playoffs with Mahomes, seems like for 10 years now. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if they sneak in, but I doubt it. So the last game that we're going to talk about is the matchup tonight on Monday Night Football between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Los Angeles Chargers. So this is going to be a matchup between Jalen Hurts of the Eagles and Justin Herbert of the Chargers. Both teams have the same record, 8-4, and both teams are still positioning for the best and top seed in the playoffs. So a lot on the line in this game as well. Here on the win probability, the Eagles have a 55% chance of winning, and the Chargers are at 45. So should be a good game tonight. I'm not sure who I'm gonna go with in this one. The Eagles' offense has been struggling the whole season. The Chargers, they lost 2 of their top offensive tackles. So this game is looks like played in Inglewood in Los Angeles. So I'm gonna go with the Chargers in this one to get a win over the Eagles and improve to 9-4, and the Eagles to fall to 8-5. So we'll see what happens tonight, and let's go Chargers. All right, guys, before we wrap things up for today, let's go ahead and check out the standings in the NFL after week 14. So we still have the Monday night football game to go, but all the other games are in. So AFC East, New England Patriots 11-2. They're going to win this division. and the Buffalo Bills are also going to make the playoffs. New England Patriots, 10 wins in a row. Buffalo Bills, 2 wins in a row. AFC North, the Steelers just got a huge win over the Ravens. They're number one in the AFC North division, 1 game ahead of the Baltimore Ravens. But I think the Steelers should hold off the Ravens and make the playoffs. And I think the Ravens will be out of the playoffs. The Bengals, with their loss to the Bills this week, are out of the playoffs. So let's go, Steelers. AFC South. A lot of competition in this one between the Jags, Texans, and Colts. The Colts just lost Daniel Jones with an Achilles tear for the rest of the regular season. They're going to be out. But I think the Jags and Texans both might make the playoffs. And if not, then I think the Texans are a better team than the Jags and that the Texans would make the playoffs. AFC West. Denver Broncos are going to win this division. Chargers should make the playoffs. I think the Chiefs are going to be out of the playoffs, and obviously the Raiders are already. Jump over to the NFC. NFC East. The Eagles should win this division. The other 3 teams, I don't think are going to make the playoffs. I know the Cowboys are making a push for it, but if I had to put my money on it, I would say that they're not going to make the playoffs. NFC North, 3 good teams in this division: Packers, Bears, and Lions. I think all 3 of these teams are going to make the playoffs. Green Bay Packers playing really well. They have 4 wins in a row. Bears playing well. The Lions are playing better. So they should all 3 be in. NFC South. Tampa Bay Bucks, Carolina Panthers tied. And this one, kind of disappointed with my hometown Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The fact that they have let the Panthers catch up to them and basically have the same record. But I think the Bucks should pull away from the Panthers by the end of the regular season. So I think the Bucks will win this division and the other 3 teams will be out of the playoffs. NFC West, Rams looking like the best team in the NFC at 10-3. They should be in the playoffs, or they will be in the playoffs. Seattle Seahawks also really good at 10-3. They will be in the playoffs. I think the 49ers will also squeeze into the playoffs, and obviously the Cardinals are out. So 3 teams should make the playoffs out of the NFC West, and I think the Rams are going to win the actual division. All right, guys. So that wraps up NFL Week 14. I hope you guys liked the video and got some value out of the content. If you did, subscribe to my YouTube channel so that I can continue making these videos. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.